It was midnight. In one of the city's silent apartment buildings, Elif was living alone. That day it had rained heavily, and the wind rattled the windows like claws scratching the glass. Elif was about to fall asleep when she was startled by the sound of light, soft footsteps coming from the corridor. At first, she ignored it. Perhaps a neighbor had gotten up to get some water, she thought. But a few minutes later, the steps came again. They sounded like the footsteps of a child, short, quick, rhythmic. Yet there were no children living on her floor. In fact, most of the tenants were single adults. Curious, she peeked through the peephole. In the dim light of the corridor, a boy of about 7 stood silently. He wore old, torn pajamas, and in his hand was a ragged teddy bear whose stitches had burst and whose eyes were barely hanging on. The child slowly lifted his head. Elif's heart pounded violently. It was as if the boy knew she was watching, because his black, empty eyes stared directly at the peephole. Then, without moving his lips, a thin whisper echoed inside Elif's head.
Will you find my toy?
Panicking, Elif shut the door and backed away. This must be a dream, she muttered to herself. But the whisper didn't stop. It grew louder, circling through her home.
Find it. If you don't, you'll be mine.
Elif checked the rooms in terror. No one was there. Yet something had changed. In the bedroom mirror, she saw her own reflection. But behind her, 2 tiny hands rested on her shoulders. When she turned around, the room was empty. She ran to the bathroom and switched on the light. On the sink sat the child's teddy bear. Just minutes ago, it had been outside in the corridor. Its button eyes glowed faintly, almost alive. The child's voice came again, closer this time. They hid it. If you can't find it, then you'll hide. Elif, gasping for breath, froze in the middle of the living room. She tried to run to the door, but it wouldn't open. No matter how hard she pulled, the lock refused to turn. Suddenly, the television flicked on by itself. Static filled the screen, then cleared. The image sharpened into a live feed of the corridor. The boy was standing there, staring directly into the camera. Slowly, he began walking toward her apartment. Elif screamed. From the TV screen, the child's tiny hand reached out. The lights in the apartment went out in an instant. In the darkness, only his thin whisper echoed. Now you are my toy. And in that moment, Elif's screams filled the apartment. But the next morning, neighbors said they hadn't heard a sound. They only found an old, tattered teddy bear sitting in front of her door.